When I write songs, and I've written a lot of them since about 16 years of age, I call them a verbal scrapbook of my life. I write about what I feel, and I'm passionate about writing about what I feel because in life, you don't always get to express how you feel, or in my case, I'm one of 6 children from a family in Iowa, and so my life is very much about relationships and how I interact with people, because I had 4 brothers and a sister, and my parents and my grandmother, but I always kept my feelings acceptable to everybody in the relationships that I was in. So my songs are me being my real self. I tell it like I really feel it, but I don't always say it like I really feel it. So I really believe people see a different side and a more real, honest side of me when I'm singing. Not that I'm not honest when I'm keeping the peace and loving and cheerful, but my mother, I played 1 gig in my hometown. I've actively been a singer-songwriter since 1999, but I've been writing poems for my parents since I was old enough to write for their anniversary or for their birthdays. And my mother, months before she passed away from cancer in 1999, came to my gig. And some of my songs tend to have more of a sad theme. I think I try to bring it to a hopeful resolution. But anyway, after my gig, my mother said, "Now that you got that out of your system, all that sad stuff, why don't you write some happy songs?" And I think I have written some happy songs, but she and other people aren't used to hearing the angst inside maybe that I've wrestled with, when you lose someone you love. So some of my songs are about death. I wrote a song called The Cardinal's Lullaby, and stars shining in the sky, I ask you why, after her life of love, she dwells with you above. I liked her here year after year, moon rising in the sky, who gave her wings to fly. And then the song resolves with, life is a cycle, we're born, we grow, we die, and if we're really blessed, love lifts our spirits high. Mom, your love shines bright even in my night. Moon and stars up in the sky, listen for the Cardinal's Lullaby. Cardinal, and that song is called The Cardinal's Lullaby, and it will be on my upcoming CD called Hope On, coming out in June of 2007. But cardinals were flittering around the cemetery when my grandmother was buried, and then a few years later my mother was buried, and so cardinals are a theme in my family that signifies the strong matriarchal love that my grandmother and my mom had and showed us all through the years. So writing a song it comes in different ways. Sometimes I really want to say something, and so I keep hammering out the rhyme of it all or the form of it all until I've said what I want. And other times, the song Hope On, actually, that I wrote, it came at me in about 10 minutes. It was the year 1997. It was when my divorce was going to be finalized, and it was just a lonely winter night in my apartment by myself. I remember going out on the porch on a porch in a 3rd floor apartment, and just being really sad. And then the song says, "Hope on, though the road goes on and on. Hope on, believe that you are strong." So I think I write some songs of strength when I'm at my lowest to help bring me out of where I am, where I don't want to stay emotionally, for right or wrong. That's how I write some songs. People who know me and hear me whistling think that I am having a happy day, and they rarely know that I'm usually whistling or trying to come up with a melody when I'm at my saddest. That's what music does for me.
the bones and the junk that I use in my sculptures, which I call spirit vessels. They started about 4 years ago, and they've become quite complex ever since. They're now loaded with a lot of bone symbolism, and they've become quite sophisticated compared to the crafts kind of sculpture vessels that they were before. The bones represent a kind of a history of life. They're beautiful in themselves. You find a bone, or you gnaw at the meat off of a bone, and you just can't help but look at it and say that there's something actually quite beautiful about the way it's constructed and so forth. Indigenous people, primitive people have seen this in the past, and they've used bones in their rituals. They've used the skeletons of ancestors to give them wisdom and so forth. So I use them as elements of form in my work, and I also use them because they hold so much power in terms of the symbolism, and also just their incredible beauty. And I'm looking at a piece as I talk, and I see the banister, part of a banister that was, gotten from a junkyard kind of thing, and that fits into the whole thing. And then there's nature that sort of whirls around and so forth. And I build these armatures the way architects build buildings, and I use all this, and they kind of dictate the form. So I really don't have this idea that this is going to be this, and it's going to have these planes and so forth. Basically, nature and the death of living beings, dictate the form of the pieces that I'm doing. And then, in working with this, I'm looking at all these fascinating little pockets of nature that seem to just they seem to reveal themselves. Excuse me. They seem to reveal themselves. And as an artist, what I'm trying to do more and more towards the end of a piece is to try to keep all these things in balance. The things that I know that a paint or a substance will do, and also letting alone what nature has provided for me, and allowing that to say its piece also, because that's extremely important. The nature of that, the nature is, my church, my spirituality.